Well, welcome everybody to a information session about. Welcome to our discussion about writing accountability groups. We've got a set of slides for you, and we'll have some interactive aspects to it, so we can kind of share our challenges with this particular issue of writing. So what we want to do tonight is talk about what these groups are and then give you all a little time to connect with each other. But let's just get started here. So first, some introductions. So my name is Cindy Dupure. I'm professor of chemistry, and I'm also a faculty fellow in the graduate school. So I'm working with the graduate school to provide more support for you all between admission and graduation. That's kind of the goal here. And then if Dr. Kirchhoff could say a bit about her role.
Sure. Hello, everyone. I am Shay Kirchhoff, an associate professor and faculty fellow for doctoral student success in the College of Education.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Kirchhoff. So we're encouraging everyone to share and ask questions. I already talked a little bit about the recording, so this is meant to be interactive, and so please chime in. All right, so we're going to provide an overview of what a WAG is, what that stands for. And then we'll talk a little bit about what some of the myths and barriers are to writing, and I'm sure a lot of you are thinking about what your barriers might be. And we'll talk a little bit about some writing strategies, like how can you overcome some of those things so you can be productive. I'm guessing there are a lot of folks on the call who are, getting ready to write a dissertation or a thesis and are having various challenges with accomplishing that really large project. That is a really big deal. And we'll talk about what you can expect from a writing accountability group, how it kind of works. And then at the end, we'll spend some time talking about, we'll get together and form some of these groups as best we can with the group folks we have here tonight. All right, so actually the WAG, Writing Accountability Group idea, it is not something that we've invented. It's actually been out there. And there's a lot of great resources at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, UMBC, and these links work. So if you're interested, there's a whole webpage actually at UMBC about writing accountability groups and some resources and things like that. So I will put the slides out. So we're going to talk about what writing accountability groups are, and we've done the introductions with Dr. Kirchhoff and myself, and we'll talk a little bit about these particular aspects of the writing accountability group. Okay. As I was mentioning earlier, there's a lot of resources at this link, and if you have a few minutes, you might want to go out and take a look. So there are actually grad WAGs all over the country, I discovered. We don't have one here, but we're about to start them. And there are also a number of faculty writing accountability groups too. So this is a kind of a regular, broad practice. And then there's a WAG site that's not associated with the university, wagyourwork.com, which gives also some additional resources. So I want to point that out to you. I will upload the presentation slides to the graduate student canvas, which all of you are a member of, and so you can access the slides out there. All right, so what's a WAG? So a WAG stands for Writing Accountability Group. So these are usually peer-led, so there isn't really a hierarchy. It's not like your instructor's going to come on with you. It's you all are helping and supporting each other. And these are voluntary. I mean, unless somebody makes it part of an assignment for a class, it's up to you if you want to, how to manage this. And the idea, and it has proven to be effective, is to increase your writing productivity and your research productivity. So it's hard to find time, with all the things that are pulling at all of us. But if we have some dedicated priority time for doing some of this and we're accountable to other people, then practice has showed that that's actually pretty effective. But it actually supports, when Dr. Kirchhoff and I were planning this, it supports really a daily writing practice. So jumping on for an hour with some folks will probably help if you're not doing any writing at all yet. But it's really a daily writing practice that's going to benefit you the most, and she'll talk a little bit more about that. And so the WAG group usually meets generally weekly. All right. So typically the size of this group can vary. 4 to 8 is kind of a goal amount. You can do a WAG with 2 people, no problem. If it gets a little big, the numbers get too large, it can be a little hard for everybody to share for a session, so be thinking about that. And then when they meet, when a group meets depends on that group. So they'll decide when to meet, what day, time, what the format is, whether it's in person or by Zoom. And then for the agreed upon length of time. So length of time could be 60 minutes, it could be 75 minutes, or even an hour and a half. And that's something that everybody agrees upon. And then the format's up to you as well, whether you want to do online or in person. Most folks who responded to me in the application form preferred online, so Teams or Zoom. But there were some folks who are interested in person, so that's something you would work out with your group. So WAGS has a background, and at this WAG Your Work website, you can check out a little bit about where that comes from. And some experts have really studied this and shown that it really does work as a way of building a reliable and productive writing habit. What's keeping all of us from writing? I think, like writing is in my experience, one of the hardest things that I do. And I think anybody who writes probably thinks it's I don't think anybody thinks it's easy. Does anybody think it's easy? I don't think so. If you do, I think that's great. And there's some things keeping us from, getting that productivity done, which is why you're all here, actually. So I thought we would start. I'm going to ask if folks would share in the chat what their challenges are with writing. You could just share in the chat what.
Feel free to unmute and speak if you want to, or add something in the chat and I can share it out.
Well, I have a comment. Like when you're doing research, you can only write so much, then you have to go and read more. So that's a big interruption. And then to get back into the swing of things, and then you got to go get more resources to keep going. So to keep that momentum while you're actually researching and folding in resources, I mean.
Great, Connie. My reaction to that is that's all writing. But maybe people disagree with me. I don't know. What do you think, Dr. Kirchhoff? Isn't that kind of writing?
Yeah, I think that what you're talking about is flow, right? And so flow is what we want. It feels really good when we're writing and we can just sit and flow for a couple hours. But life really gets in the way of that. So what we find is more of the reality of what it looks like to be a productive writer in a research kind of context is 30 minutes of reading here, 20 minutes of searching for literature here, maybe an hour of writing here, but it's hard to find that time to sit and flow. That is the feeling we're longing for so much. That's
Great.
definitely hard. And then I'm seeing some other things in the chat, like work, school, home, all of these other responsibilities, feeding children, also confusing feedback from faculty. I think that's interesting. Also, getting different feedback from different people can be hard to make into something that's productive.
Right. I think linking things like paragraph info to each other. So yes. So you write a little. I did this today. I wrote a little paragraph on this and a little paragraph on something else, and a little paragraph on something else. And you know what? I gave myself permission to figure out later how to knit it all together. So I'm like 70% editor and 30% writer. That's me. But agree, that can be challenging. Just starting. So
That's
Tiffany
great.
says, just starting.
Yeah.
The proverbial blank page, right? Although now it's a screen. Absolutely. Connecting research. I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you could elaborate, if you're able to say, Tiffany, that'd be great.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Hi.
Yes, just trying to connect all of the different resources that you pulled from, so making them one, article or paragraph that needs, like you say, to flow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that synthesis of other people's ideas and our ideas, and then the feedback, like there's a lot of synthesis that happens in academic writing. That's definitely a challenge.
Right. And does it feel like, Tiffany, because I've had this experience, like every time you write a sentence, you have to cite something, right? So you can't even write out, you can't even, you can start by writing a bunch of sentences that have no citations, but in the end, you're going to have to go back and cite all that stuff. And that takes lots of time. It's really challenging.
And then people are also starting to add some strategies like outlining and using notes functions.
So outline, a lot of people, Nathan's mentioning an outline. A lot of people find an outline helpful, for sure.
I more recently started doing that. I used for a long time, I would just sort of like it would all be meshed here and you just sort of like bleh on the paper and then you kind of go
Mhm.
back and clean it up. But to the person who said something about writing and then having to pause and go back and find more research, um, I find that irritating also. So I start a document where I just pull my quotes and my data and I start categorizing it. And as you're doing that, it starts to put it together in a more less messy way in your mind.
Yeah, Nathan's mentioning using a notes function. So is this in
Yeah.
Word or what
Yeah,
is?
in Word, it top right, it's what is it called? Notes. It's in the comments, insert comments. Right. And so you
Mm.
can like highlight a piece of data or a quote and then type a note to yourself in the margin in a
Oh
little
yeah,
box. And, and it's basically you're talking to that piece of evidence and criticism or affirmation or connecting it to something that's way down lower on the paper or above or whatever.
absolutely.
It's sort of a third dimension on the screen as opposed to just, straight down top to bottom.
So Anvesh is saying inserting literature reference after everything is in order. Yeah. I was doing some of this today. That takes a lot of time, actually. Finding the right reference. If you use databases, I'm happy to. We can talk about databases sometime if you all would like. Uh, I find the longer time that goes between when I make a statement and backing it up, that usually doesn't serve me well, honestly. Like if I wait too long, then it's way more work to try to find it. So sometimes I'll use temporary citations if I don't have it in a database, which again is another conversation. But I'll put down, like Smith and Wesson 1975, whatever, write it right in there so that I have, so I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that reference. So other thoughts from folks here? Does anybody feel like it has to be perfect before you put it down? Nathan's
Let
like,
that
no.
go. Let that go.
Because sometimes people are that's called the paralysis of perfection, where you're like, well, I haven't got it completely formed in my head yet, so it's not perfect, so I'm not going to write it down. Not many people can write that way.
I've always found writing as part of the thought process.
Yes, writing and thinking are the same, are very closely related. I tend to be I'm like Nathan. I'm kind of a grind it out writer, so I don't worry. I just get it down, and then because I know I'm a good, like I can rely on my editing skills, so it tends not to freak me out. But it depends on what your comfort level with these other elements is. Does anybody feel like they don't have enough time? I guess somebody kind of addressed that really with the multitasking stuff. Okay, we have a message here. Organizing information and lots of different things. It can take time to pick up where I left off. Yes. So we've talked a bit about things coming at us from all directions, right? We got citations and our own thinking and data and all of that. But if you lose the flow, which we talked about earlier, then finding it can take a lot of time. So you kind of have to give yourself time for that and then time for the writing. Has anybody noticed that they write better or more productively at different times of the day or under different circumstances? Is this something folks have noticed?
I think that is the challenge for me when it comes to collaborative writing. I tend to have what feels to me like my clearest brain for writing late at night. Like if I could write from 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., that would be my ideal writing time. It's really hard to find collaborators in my that want to stay up till 2 a.m. with me to write, So part of it is also finding ways of writing with other people. That can be a challenge.
Oh, wow. I haven't done that much of it. I did a little bit of it as a fellow. It was actually quite stimulating, but very challenging.
Mhm.
Nathan has another thought in here. Oh, yeah. Write something down and then go do something else for a while. Like,
Oh,
I
you have
agree.
to.
You
Yeah.
have to. You kind of have to give.
Well, because your brain will fill in the mistakes and you won't see them.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So these are all good thoughts about what can be challenging for writers. I think that takes us to writing strategies.
Okay, so we've already started sharing a bit in the chat of different writing strategies, and that is what I find is one of the benefits of getting together with other writers is that I get that just-in-time tip that I need for the challenge that I'm experiencing that week. And I can have a chance to hear what other people do, and then I can either toss it or tweak it or use that myself. And then I also have a chance to share what's working for me with other people. And that helps give that little dopamine of the successes and celebrating the successes along the way. That helps keep us going. Writing and research in academia, if you don't know this already, can be filled with a lot of rejection. We're in competitive fields. We are writing for journals that might have a 10% to 20% acceptance rate. And so any chance that we can take and carve out for ourselves to celebrate our successes is important. So some of the writing strategies that the writing accountability group research has found is that in academia, the most productive writers are finding some sort of daily routine. And that routine is what keeps that momentum going. So, setting aside a daily writing time, for some people, that means keeping it the same time each day. And so when that time of day comes, you're just already mentally and physically prepared to write because you're not having to make the decision. If we had to decide each day to sit down and write, then then our body or our mind might not want us to do that. But if it's just all that's just our routine, then that helps remove some of the barriers and challenges because we're not having to make that decision every day. It just is. Another thing is to connect writing to another activity. That's another way to kind of form a habit. Some examples here are just after dinner or after taking a shower. For me, it's walking. I like to take a walk and listen. I have a text to speech app and I listen to something on my topic. And then I'm excited. I have all these ideas in my head and they're swirling around and I'm excited to get them out. And so then I come home and I sit down and I write. So that works for me. And then the biggest thing is just planning your week in advance of what you're going to accomplish. And we'll talk about what that will look like in a second. One of the biggest strategies that I want to share is to expand your definition of writing to any scholarly activity that is moving your work forward. So, one thing that can be part of your daily writing time is finding an article to use as a template. In writing research, we call this a mentor text. So it could be an article that uses the same methodology as your methodology. It could be an article that is from the same publication, the same journal that you want to use. It doesn't have to be an exact match. It's more of the structure, the template that can help you get started, can find some verbiage if you need some verbiage. Outlining, as we talked about in the chat, can be writing. So that counts as writing too. Analyzing data, creating tables or charts, working on that reference list, all of that counts as writing. So we're going to expand our definition when we're talking about our WAG time or our daily writing time to be expansive. So how we take these two ideas and mesh them together is to try to identify specific tasks that might take about 20 minutes. So reading and taking notes on one article for a lit review, that could be Monday. Writing 3 to 4 sentences for your methods section. Maybe that includes like looking at your mentor text and pulling from your notes. And that's a 20-minute task for Tuesday. Preparing a first draft of your abstract, that's Wednesday. So this is how we can keep working on our writing without having to be in that deep flow that sometimes we're waiting to feel before we even sit down. So think of writing like practicing. Writing is like daily practicing. Just like learning a new piece by sitting down at the piano, academics can work through a piece of writing by sitting down at the keyboard consistently for daily writing, expansively research time. All right, so the other strategy we hope you'll take away from this is for you to join your very own writing accountability group. So what does that look like? What can you expect when you do join a group? Well, at the first meeting, we suggest you make a semester plan. And I'm going to click on this link and tell you what I mean by that. So this is how I make a semester plan. I have an overview at the top. Typically, I am working on 3 different studies at one time. So I always have something in preparation, something in the data collection or analysis, and then something that I'm ready to kind of finish and submit. And so my overview is for me just stating what I'm having in each of those big buckets. Then I make weekly goals. So by January 7th, when I meet with my WAG, I want to have my survey results analyzed. And I want to have, for my other study, I want to have that outline done. So you can see as you go through this, there are tasks for each week. And then for that week, I would split that task into 20-minute or 30-minute or 60-minute, whatever I have time for my daily writing in order to get this done. What I actually do though is start at the end. So I wanted to submit my article on well-being at the end of the spring semester. So for that to happen, that means by April 29th, I needed to be ready for proofreading. That meant by the 22nd, I need to be writing my discussion. By April 15th, I needed to be working on my findings. So this is a backwards design in order to help me see that I'm going to meet that goal. Another thing I wanted was there was a conference proposal due date, February 25th. So in order to ensure I was going to meet that, I backwards planned from that. So we have 2 things going on here. We have daily writing time with different tasks each day, but then we also have weekly goals and we have that are part of a semester plan. So what questions is that bringing up for you all? What questions do you have so far? Clear enough so far? Okay. So the first meeting of a writing accountability group, when I'm leading a group, we make a semester plan. We use that first time together to make our plans. We also agree on group norms. Are we okay eating on camera if we're on Zoom, or do we want cameras off? Do we want to be in person? If so, is it okay if we're running late? Should we still show up, or are we expected to be on time? Just what do you need as a group in order to feel that you can do your best work? And then agree on that time structure. So to give you an example, when I run a WAG, we start with our goal sharing. Once we get past that first meeting time, then every week we start with our goal sharing. Here's what I want to get done during this time. This is what my goals are for this week. We then have quiet 30 to 45 minutes of writing time, and then 15 minutes of wrap up. This is the way we do it. This is when we can celebrate successes like, yes, I met my goal. This is when we can ask each other questions. Oh, I'm really stuck on this part. Anyone have a tip or trick or strategy? But you all can structure it the way you want. So this is just a little bit more information about what each of these looks like. Remember, during that quiet communal writing time, even on Zoom, what we tend to do is turn our cameras off and mute our microphones, but we don't go away. We're still there in that communal space. And anything counts as writing that's moving our work forward and taking us to our goals. And then that wrap up is optional. Some groups don't do that, but that's the way I run my groups. In order to help us get that little accountability piece of the writing accountability group, the other thing I do, and this is part of the WAG strategies, is to have a communal place to share your goals for that day. And then this little place, goal achieved, it might sound like, well, we don't really need that. But to type, yes, I met my goal, and to say it out loud to other people, that's that dopamine hit that we need to keep us going and celebrate those small successes. So you can make a copy of any of these slides, any of these templates for your own group. All right, so I'll turn it back over to you.
Thanks, Dr. Kirchhoff. We had a request for your the planning template. Is that something you could share with me and I could put out on the Canvas for the graduate
Yes,
students?
it's linked in the slides. So when you share the slides, it will be hyperlinked in there.
Okay, great. All right, thank you for that. Okay, can everybody see that? Okay, so we've got about a half an hour left for an hour-long session, and let's try to form these groups. So just a few tips on that, and then we've got a strategy for which you might be able to connect with your other WAG members. Again, we're looking for 48 people. They could be bigger or smaller, but that's kind of a good goal size, and you might have fun coming up with a name. That might be fun. And then you will arrive on a consistent weekly meeting time, and I'll get to that in a minute. I have some suggestions for you all. And then determine your location or format. Most folks are interested in online, so is it Teams, is it Zoom, is there something else? I don't think anybody's doing Skype anymore, but you know, those types of formats. And if you're meeting in person, where would that be? Library, conference room, coffee shop, something like that. Yeah, and there's other elements available out there at the UMBC. Okay, so what we'd like to do, or what you all will want to do, is when you form your group, decide. So we're going to put you in some breakout groups here in a minute. Decide on when you want to meet, what works for everyone. Figure out how you want to communicate with each other. That's important. Do you want to text each other? Do you want to email each other? And then it would be good to have somebody facilitate the group, and you could take turns facilitating. So somebody might, you might take turns by the week or by the term. You can decide what that would be. And that person can be a little bit kind of an admin. And I would ask, as we get started, I would love to know who your group leader is, because there are going to be people asking to join WAGs, and if I have a contact name for every group, it's easier for me to get that information out. And it looks like the goal sheet is here as well. Okay, so as we break into groups here, be thinking about these things that I mentioned. If you need either one of us to join the breakout group, let us know, and if you need a consult or something, let us know. Odds are good that the options that we've got for the group may not work for everyone, but you're free to form a different group. And again, 2 people could form a group. And there's going to be folks joining after the fact. We don't have, I had far more people respond to the sign-up sheet than I'll actually hear tonight. And some folks have conflicts. And you can ask folks to join into your group too after it's formed. And my goal right now is that we try to do this for the summer, and then in the fall we can reconvene, and maybe you stay with your group, or maybe you go with a different group. Kind of depends on what works for everyone. Everyone filled out kind of when they were available, and there was like, over 35 people, signed up for stuff. And then there was the heat map in the when to meet. But there were some themes, and so what we've done is I've made 4 breakout groups, and you'll see it in a minute when I open them. I haven't opened them yet. And this is based on when most people were available. One of them is this time slot that we're talking about right now, which is Monday evening, maybe 6:30. You could flex it if you move it a little bit if you need to. Wednesday at the same time. These would be online. There was a hot spot for 11 a.m. Wednesday in person for some folks, and I don't know if they're here with us tonight. And then there's everybody else. So I'm going to open up the rooms, and then if you all would join the rooms and then begin to work out some of the details for your WAG. So before I do all that, any questions?
I have a quick question.
Please.
So the WAG groups can usually run until we are completed with the paper. Is that the process?
Typically a semester. So we typically think in semesters. So we'll have a summer WAG group. Then if your summer WAG group says, hey, you guys want to do this in the fall? then you might need a different time though. So that's what I find is that schedules change at the semester. So we'll try to think of a structure for a semester at a time.
So my question is, am I too early to join the WAG? Because this is just my second semester. So just wondering.
Do you have a writing
Well,
project? Go ahead, Dr. Kirkhoff.
yeah, it doesn't have to be your dissertation. So I encourage students to think about is there something you could get ahead of, or is there a conference proposal that you want to write? Is there a literature review that you could publish and work on? So there, I appreciate that you are here and it's your second semester. And I think you can take advantage of that. You're here. What can you do? And I'm happy to help you keep thinking about that
Thank you.
as I get to know you and your research a little bit more.
Yes, thanks.
That's great advice. Absolutely. Other thoughts? I will say one thing before we open the groups up. So when we've got folks interested from all over campus, and we were wondering if we wanted to convene by discipline, but in reality, basically, I think the time will probably dominate. But it could be that some of you form into natural groups depending on area. So it kind of depends on what works for you. But just so you know, we just dealt with time because that's a pretty, people have to be able to come. Nathan, every class in which you write a paper, rough draft manuscript for potential publication. Maybe in your discipline, yeah.
Oh,
In my
yeah, that's true.
in my discipline, folks they have to give talks a lot, and I have some chemists on the call, so they know what I'm talking about.
Cool.
So preparing a slide deck, and then often in chemistry, the slide deck overlaps a lot with the poster, which overlaps a lot with a paper, which overlaps a lot with a dissertation. So there can be your writing could take different forms for sure.
That's true. I'm political science.
Okay, great. All right, shall I'll open the rooms and then we'll see what happens. And if you're just completely lost and you don't know what to do or you don't know how to join a room, just stay with us and we'll have a chat about it. Okay, I'm going to open these up. All right, and you're invited to join according to your. Can you all join the room? Not everybody knows how to join a room, so
Yeah, or if you're on the phone and you can't see the rooms, if you just shout out, I'm the Monday evening person, can you put me in that room? Or I'm Wednesday evening, or I'm Wednesday 11 a.m. We can then put you in the room.
okay. Does anybody need help joining your group?